Respected the moment your phone lights up and you see his name after days, weeks, maybe even months of silence. Your heart doesn't just beat, it remembers the late nights, the unanswered questions, the pain of waiting. And now in one simple message, everything comes rushing back. But listen carefully, because when he texts you first after silence, it doesn't mean what you think it means. You see, people love to romanticize that moment. They tell you he missed you. They say he realized your worth. And sometimes that's true. But most of the time it's deeper than that, more complicated, more human. And if you don't understand it clearly, you'll fall right back into the same emotional cycle that broke you in the first place. Let me tell you something in the spirit of Steve Harvey. A man's actions always speak louder than his silence, but his silence tells you everything you need to know. When a man disappears, when he goes quiet, when he stops calling, texting, checking in, that silence is not confusion. That silence is a decision. Maybe not a loud one, maybe not even a permanent one, but it is still a choice to step away, a choice to disconnect, a choice to not prioritize you in that moment. And here's where most people get it wrong. When he comes back, when he sends that message, when he breaks the silence, you think it cancels out the silence. But it doesn't. It explains it. Because when he texts you first after silence, the first thing it means is this: something in his life shifted. Not necessarily his heart, not necessarily his commitment, but something changed. Maybe he got lonely. Maybe the distractions that kept him busy faded away. Maybe the attention he was giving somewhere else didn't give him the same feeling you did. Or maybe life humbled him just enough to remember the comfort he once had with you. But listen, just because someone remembers you doesn't mean they've grown for you. That message you received, it feels powerful, doesn't it? It feels like validation, like proof that you mattered, like confirmation that you weren't easy to forget. And yes, you did matter. You still matter. But don't confuse being remembered with being chosen. There's a difference between a man who misses your presence and a man who is ready to value your presence. And if you don't understand that difference, you will respond with your emotions instead of your wisdom. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine someone leaves your life without explanation. Days go by, then weeks. You question yourself. You replay conversations. You wonder what you did wrong. You try to make sense of silence that never gave you closure. And slowly, you start healing. Not perfectly, not completely, but you start putting yourself back together. You learn to sleep without checking your phone. You learn to laugh again. You begin to reclaim your peace. And then, just when your heart is learning to breathe without them, your phone lights up. Hey, how have you been? Simple words, casual tone. But behind those words is a storm of emotions. Now, here's the truth most people won't tell you. That message is not always about you. Sometimes it's about him needing to feel something again. Sometimes it's about curiosity, wondering if you're still there, wondering if he still has access to you. And sometimes it's about unfinished emotional business, not because he wants to fix it, but because he wants to reopen it just enough to feel in control again. That's why you have to pause, not react. Pause, because your response in that moment will either repeat your past or redefine your future. You see, when a man truly grows, when he truly realizes your worth, his message won't be casual. It won't be vague. It won't be, hey, stranger, or what's up, dot, no. When a man knows he messed up, when he understands what he lost, when he respects you, he comes back with clarity, with accountability, with intention. Anything less than that is not a return. It's a test to see if you're still emotionally available, a test to see if the door he walked out of is still unlocked. And let me tell you something powerful. Just because someone knocks doesn't mean you have to open the door, because healing requires boundaries, growth requires awareness, and self-respect requires discipline. You can't say you want better and still entertain the same behavior that hurt you. You can't say you've changed and still respond the same way every time he reappears. And I know it's not easy, because that message doesn't just come from him, it triggers something inside you. Memories, questions, but you have to ask yourself one simple, honest question: is this message bringing me peace or pulling me back into confusion? Because real love doesn't confuse you. Real love doesn't disappear, reappear like a convenience. Real love stays consistent, even when it's hard. And if he couldn't give you consistency before, what makes you believe he can give it to you now without any real change? See, people don't just change because time passed. They change because they chose to grow. And growth, real growth, always shows up in actions, not just words. So when he texts you after silence, don't rush to respond. Observe, feel, but don't fall. Listen, but don't lose yourself. Because sometimes that message is not a second chance. It's your final test. A test of how much you've learned. A test of how much you value yourself now. A test of whether you will go back or finally move forward. And the answer to that test will define the next chapter of your life. You know, there's something nobody really prepares you for. It's not the silence itself that breaks you. It's what the silence makes you believe about yourself. And when he finally texts you after that silence, all those beliefs come rushing back, asking for validation. Now listen closely, because this is where most people lose their power. When that message comes in, your mind starts telling stories. Maybe he changed. Maybe he realized that maybe this time will be different. And before you even reply, you've already built a whole future in your head based on one simple text. But let me tell you something straight. A message is not a transformation. A message is easy. It takes seconds to type hate out. It takes seconds to say I miss you, but it takes real effort, real growth, real character to show up consistently, to communicate clearly, and to treat someone with the respect they deserve. And this is where you have to separate emotion from reality. Because when a man texts you after silence, the second thing it means is this: he's checking your availability, not proving his commitment. Yes, I said it. He's checking if you're still there. He's checking if he still has access. He's checking if the connection he once had with you is still open without having to do the work to rebuild it. And if you respond too quickly, too warmly, too eagerly, you answer that question for him. You tell him without words, yes, I'm still here. Yes, you can come back whenever you want. Yes, nothing has changed. And the moment he feels that, nothing will change, because people don't respect what they don't have to work for. Now, that doesn't mean you play games. It doesn't mean you ignore him just to prove a point. No, this is not about manipulation. This is about self-respect. It's about understanding your value so deeply that you no longer respond out of habit. You respond out of awareness. Let me give you a real-life truth in the spirit of Steve Harvey. A man will always do what you allow him to do. If you allow inconsistency, you will receive inconsistency. If you allow confusion, you will live in confusion. If you allow him to walk in and out of your life without accountability, he will treat your presence like a revolving door, not a place of value. So when he texts you after silence, don't just look at what he's saying, look at what he's not saying. Is he acknowledging the silence? Is he taking responsibility? Is he showing any sign of growth? Or is he acting like nothing happened, like the gap between you never existed? Because that right there tells you everything. You see, someone who truly respects you will never ignore the damage they cause. They won't just slide back into your life like nothing happened. They will address it. They will own it. They will make it right. Anything less than that is emotional convenience. And you are not here to be someone's convenience. You are not here to be the option they come back to when everything else fails. You are not here to fill the gaps in someone's lonely moments. You are here to be valued consistently, clearly, and completely. But that only happens when you start valuing yourself at that same level. And I know part of you still cares. Part of you still wonders, what if this is real? What if he actually misses me? And yes, maybe he does miss you. But missing someone is not the same as being ready for them. Let me say that again, because this right here changes everything. Missing you does not mean he's ready to love you the right way. People miss comfort all the time. People miss familiarity. People miss the way you made them feel. But that doesn't mean they've done the inner work to become better for you. And if you ignore that truth, you will keep reopening wounds that were finally starting to heal. So instead of asking, why did he text me? Ask a better question. What has actually changed? Not in words, not in promises, but in actions. Because real change shows up in consistency. Real change shows up in effort. Real change shows up in how someone treats you over time, not just in one moment of emotion. And here's something powerful you need to understand. You don't have to respond immediately. You don't have to match his timing. You don't have to jump back into a conversation just because he decided to return. You are allowed to take your time. You are allowed to observe. You are allowed to protect your peace, because your peace is something you had to rebuild without him. Don't give it away so easily just because he came back knocking. And if he truly values you, he won't disappear again just because you didn't reply instantly. He won't lose interest just because you show boundaries. In fact, the right man will respect you more for it, because boundaries don't push away the right people. They reveal the wrong ones. So when that message comes in, don't look at it as an opportunity to reconnect. Look at it as an opportunity to choose yourself, to choose your growth, to choose your standards. Because at the end of the day, this is not about him texting you. This is about who you become when he does. Do you fall back into old patterns, or do you rise into a new version of yourself? Because that choice, that moment is where your real power lives. And once you understand that, you'll never look at his message the same way again. And now, this is where it gets even more real. Because by this point, you've felt the emotion, you've understood the pattern, but now comes the hardest part of all, the decision. What do you do next? See, when he texts you after silence, the third thing it means is this: he's reopening a door, but he's not necessarily walking through it. And that right there is where so many people get stuck, because a message creates possibility, but possibility is not reality. Just because a door is open doesn't mean there's a future behind it. And if you don't understand that, you will walk right back into a situation that once drained you, confused you, and left you questioning your worth. Let me explain something in a way that stays with you. There are people who come into your life for connection, and there are people who come into your life for convenience. The difference is not in what they say, it's in how they show up. A man who wants connection will be consistent. A man who wants convenience will be occasional. And when he texts you after silence, you have to figure out which one you're dealing with. Because if you treat convenience like connection, you will always end up disappointed. Now I want you to think about something honestly. When he left, did he explain? Did he try to fix things? Or did he just disappear and leave you to deal with the confusion alone? Because how someone leaves tells you more than how they come back. Anybody can come back. Anybody can send a message. Anybody can say, I miss you, when they feel lonely. But not everybody can stay. Not everybody can be consistent. Not everybody can handle the responsibility of loving someone the right way. And if he couldn't do it before, you have to ask yourself, what has truly changed now? Not what you hope has changed, not what you wish has changed, but what you can clearly see has changed. Because hope without evidence will lead you right back into heartbreak. And listen, I'm not saying people can't grow. People do grow. People do change. People do come back better. But real change leaves proof. Real change shows effort. Real change comes with accountability, patience, and a willingness to rebuild trust, not just restart conversation. So when he texts you, don't just look at the words, look at the pattern that follows. Does he stay consistent after that first message? Does he put in effort to see you, talk to you, understand you? Does he respect your boundaries? Or does he fade away again once he feels comfortable? Because that's the cycle right there. He disappears, comes back, reconnects just enough, then disappears again. And every time that happens, it takes a little more from you. Your energy, your peace, your confidence, until one day you don't even recognize yourself anymore. And all because you kept giving chances to someone who never truly changed. That's why this moment, this message is not small. It's not casual. It's not just a hey, it's a turning point. It's a moment where you either repeat the cycle or you break it. And breaking it doesn't always mean you ignore him. Sometimes breaking it means you respond, but differently, with clarity, with boundaries, with self-respect. It means you don't pretend everything is okay when it's not. It means you don't allow him to skip over the silence like it didn't happen. It means you hold him accountable, not with anger, but with calm confidence. Because your energy speaks louder than any words you can say. Let me tell you something powerful in the spirit of Steve Harvey. When you know your worth, you don't chase clarity, you require it. You don't beg for attention, you expect consistency. You don't settle for temporary emotions, you choose lasting respect. And that shift, that mindset changes everything. Because now when he texts you, you're not asking, why is he back? You're asking, does he deserve access to me anymore? That's a different level of thinking. That's a different level of power. And not everyone reaches that point because it requires letting go of fantasy and facing reality. It requires choosing long-term peace over short-term comfort. It requires understanding that just because you love someone doesn't mean they're right for you. And once you truly accept that, you stop being controlled by moments like this. You stop being pulled back by every message, every memory, every what if. Because now you see clearly, you see patterns, you see intentions, you see truth. And when you see truth, you move differently. So if he texts you after silence, don't just see it as a chance to reconnect. See it as a moment to redefine what you allow in your life. Because not everyone who comes back deserves to stay. And not every message deserves a response. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is choose yourself and keep moving forward. There's something even deeper you need to understand, something most people never fully grasp. And because of that, they keep repeating the same emotional story over and over again. When he texts you after silence, the fourth thing it means is this: he remembers your value, but that doesn't mean he's ready to live up to it. And that truth right there can either set you free or pull you back into a place you fought so hard to escape. Because remembering is easy. Missing you is easy. Thinking about you late at night, wondering how you are, even feeling a little regret, all of that is human. But rising to your level, meeting your standards, becoming the man you actually need, that takes work, that takes discipline, that takes real growth. And not everyone is willing to do that, even if they feel something for you. You see, people often come back not because they've transformed, but because they've reflected just enough to feel something again. They remember your kindness. They remember your energy. They remember how you showed up for them when nobody else did. And in a world where genuine connection is rare, that memory pulls them back. But here's the part you must not ignore. They're coming back to what you gave them, not necessarily to give you what you deserve. And if you don't recognize that, you'll give again and again and again until you're empty. Let me speak to your heart for a moment. You were not hard to love. You were not too much. You were not the problem. You gave what you knew. You showed up with honesty. You invested your time, your energy, your emotions. And if someone couldn't meet you there, that says more about their readiness than your worth. But when they come back, it creates confusion. Because now you're thinking, if I wasn't enough, why is he back? And the answer is simple. You were enough to remember, but not enough for him to change. And that's not your failure. That's his limitation. See, a man can recognize your value and still not rise to it. He can admire you and still not commit to you. He can miss you and still not be ready for you. And if you tie your worth to his actions, you will always feel like you're not enough. That's why your power comes from detachment, not coldness, not indifference, but clarity. Clarity that says, I know what I bring and I won't settle for less than that. Because once you reach that level, everything changes. Now, when he texts you, you don't feel overwhelmed. You feel aware. You don't feel desperate. You feel in control. You don't feel confused, you feel grounded. And that energy, that quiet confidence is something nobody can take from you. Let me tell you something in the spirit of Steve Harvey. The right man doesn't just come back, he comes correct. He doesn't just send a message, he brings clarity. He doesn't just say he misses you, he proves he's ready for you. And most importantly, he doesn't make you question where you stand. So if the man who texted you after silence cannot give you that, if he cannot show consistency, if he cannot take responsibility, if he cannot match your level of effort and respect, then you already have your answer. And I know walking away or even holding your ground is not easy, because part of you still remembers the good. Part of you still hopes. Part of you still wonders, what if this time is different? But let me ask you something real. How many times does something have to hurt you before you realize it's not meant to heal you? Because at some point, it's not about him anymore. It's about you. It's about your standards. It's about your growth. It's about the life you're trying to build. And you cannot build a peaceful life while entertaining inconsistent people. You cannot grow into your best self while holding on to what keeps pulling you back. And you cannot find real love if you keep reopening the door for temporary emotions. So when he texts you after silence, don't just feel something, understand something. Understand that this moment is not about the past, it's about your future. It's about the version of you you're becoming, the one who no longer settles, the one who no longer waits for someone to choose her, the one who chooses herself every single time. And once you truly step into that version of yourself, you won't be moved by messages anymore. You'll be moved by actions. You won't be impressed by words anymore. You'll be guided by consistency. And you won't be afraid to let go, because you'll finally understand that what's meant for you will never require you to lose yourself to keep it. Then let me leave you with something that stays with you long after this video ends, something real, something grounded, something you can carry into your life every single day. Because at the end of it all, this was never just about a message. It was never just about him texting you after silence. It was about what that moment revealed inside you. It revealed your triggers. It revealed your hopes. It revealed the parts of your heart that are still healing and the parts of your mind that are finally waking up. And that is where your true power lives. You see, life has a way of testing you, not by introducing new situations, but by bringing old ones back in a different form. The same person, the same pattern, the same feeling, just wrapped in a new moment. And the question is never, why is this happening again? The real question is, am I going to respond the same way again? Because growth is not about what you say you've learned. It's about what you do when you're faced with the same situation that once broke you. So when he texted you after that silence, it wasn't just a coincidence. It was a mirror showing you how far you've come or how far you still need to go. And now you have a choice. You can go back to what felt familiar, even if it hurt. You can reopen a chapter that already showed you how it ends. You can allow temporary emotions to override permanent lessons. Or you can stand still for a moment, breathe, and choose differently. Choose peace over confusion. Choose clarity over mixed signals. Choose self-respect over emotional attachment. Choose a future that aligns with your word, not your wounds. Because let me tell you something in the spirit of Steve Harvey. You don't get what you deserve in life. You get what you tolerate. And the moment you raise your standards, your entire life begins to shift. The way people treat you changes. The way you see yourself changes. The way you respond to situations like this changes. And suddenly that message that once had the power to shake you no longer controls you. Because now you understand something deeper. You understand that closure is not something he gives you. It's something you give yourself. You understand that love is not proven by words that come after silence. It's proven by actions that remain consistent through time. You understand that your worth is not defined by who comes back, but by what you allow to stay. And most importantly, you understand that the right person, the one truly meant for you, will never put you in a position where you have to question your value. They won't disappear and leave you guessing. They won't come back with half effort and expect full access. They won't confuse you, drain you, or make you feel like you're too much. No, they will meet you with clarity. They will stay with consistency. They will love you with intention. And until that person shows up, your job is not to chase, not to wait, not to hope someone becomes who they never showed you they could be. Your job is to become the version of yourself that no longer settles for anything less than real. Because once you reach that level, you don't fear silence anymore. You don't crave validation anymore. You don't get pulled back by temporary emotions anymore. You stand firm. You stand clear. You stand in your work. And from that place, everything in your life begins to align. So the next time your phone lights up and you see his name after silence, don't just ask yourself, why is he texting me? Ask yourself something more powerful. Does this align with the life I'm building? And whatever answer comes from that place of truth, trust it. Because that's not just your mind speaking, that's your growth. That's your strength. That's the new you finally choosing what you deserve. And once you start choosing like that, everything changes.